Hi, my name is Jennifer Howard. I'm the owner of Facets Relational Care, and today I'm doing a video on the different levels of health for Enneagram Type 3. The levels of health are an aspect of Enneagram theory that was first introduced by Don Riso and Russ Hudson of the Enneagram Institute. If you don't know that, you can go to the enneagraminstitute.com to get a full list of the different levels of health for all of the Enneagram personality types, kind of a detailed list. There's not any specific examples, but they do a really good job of describing what the different levels of psychological health look like for each of the Enneagram types. So the information that I'm using is coming from that website today, and then I'm just throwing in my own personal examples from my life to help give you some real life pictures of what it looks like to be a 3 at the different levels of health. So I am going to start at the bottom, the most unhealthy type of 3, and work my way up to the top to the healthiest aspect of type 3. So in Don Riso and Russ Hudson's theory, there are 9 levels of health for each Enneagram type, and levels 7 through 9 are the unhealthy levels. So at level 9, we have a very vindictive, sabotaging kind of a 3. This is someone who is so incredibly insecure, so jealous of what they perceive that other people have that they don't have, that they will engage in behaviors that could be very well abusive. They attack other people. They do things deliberately to sabotage other people and ruin what they have because they're so jealous. They can't stand it. A really good example, well, the best example that I can think of, although it is a very good example, comes from a movie that came out, I think it was 1999, called Home Fries. I hate using this example because it's an extremely difficult film to find. I don't think it's on Netflix. It's not on Hulu. It's almost one of those things where it's like if you want to see it, you have to order like a copy of a DVD from Amazon or something and pay $9.99 for it. It's kind of stupid like that, but it's a movie called Home Fries. It had Luke Wilson, Drew Barrymore, Catherine O'Hara in this movie. I mean, I think it was so incredibly unpopular. Maybe 3 people on the entire face of the planet saw it. I was one of them. But Catherine O'Hara in this movie plays the perfect textbook example of a level 9 Enneagram type 3. She is like the matriarch of the family in this movie, and the story goes that her husband has died, and she has discovered that he had been having affairs for years and years and years with all these different women, and the most recent affair that he had before he died was with a very, very young girl, like 19, 20 years old, and he got her pregnant, and they're having a baby together, and he's planning on, kind of living this double life and raising this child with her. Well, then he dies suddenly. Well, he doesn't die suddenly. She finds out about the affair that he's having, and she talks one of her children into murdering him for her. So she talks one of her own kids into murdering his father, her husband. And anyways, the movie goes on, and the entire movie revolves around this woman being absolutely jealous, and first she murders her husband, and then she decides that she's going to go and murder this young woman that he has impregnated. And so she's got 2 sons, and she's got one son who's a really unhealthy 2. He's the one that's going and hitting all these people for her, so he's knocking off all these mistresses that his dad was sleeping with at his mom's request because she's crazy and she cannot handle the fact that he was having an affair. She doesn't know how to cope with that. And then she has another son who's played by Luke Wilson, and he's a really well-developed, healthy 9 in this movie. And he kind of gets between the 2 of them, and he's trying to prevent these murders before they happen. And it's really kind of a quirky, very macabre, odd little film. But if you want a really good example of just like a level 9 type 3, this is the best example that I have ever seen. I'm glad I've never experienced it in real life, but fictionally speaking, this is the best example that I've ever seen. If you can find this movie, it really is worth the money just to watch the character development. The plot is kind of stupid. The end of the movie is kind of like, it makes you wonder why they made the movie. It's terrible, but the characters are absolutely fascinating. They were written really, really well. The dynamics between the characters is awesome. So I recommend it, especially if you want to study unhealthy type 3. Unhealthy type 2, this is a really good place to get that as well. So anyways, just a suggestion there. Then we go up to a a level 8 type 3. A level 8 type 3, this is someone that they're not to the point yet where they're willing to go and start sabotaging other people or attacking other people, or as in the case in the movie Home Fries, they're not willing to quite literally go murder the competition, and engage in sociopathic behaviors. But this is the level where we have a 3 that has spent so much time pouring energy into these grandiose lies that they have about themselves and puffing up this image and doing perhaps some very deceptive things in order to make themselves look more successful than they appear, or to create the image that they're so desperate to have. And this may be a 3 that has gotten caught. Maybe people are starting to suspect that they aren't what they appear to be. And so the 3, at this point, when you're a 3, if you're at about a level 8, you are so incredibly desperate to keep the momentum of your self-image going that you throw out morality, you're throwing out ethics, you're throwing out law and rules and policy. You don't even care anymore. You're going to do whatever you have to do to maintain that image. If you have to lie about numbers, then you'll lie about numbers. You know what I mean? If you have to, engage in some sort of, I don't know, whatever, questionable behavior, you do that if that's what it takes to uphold the image that you've created. So we still have someone that is probably teetering on the ethical fence, if you will, but not necessarily to the point yet where they are actively trying to attack another person or take away someone else's position in order to gratify the self, if that makes sense. So then we go up to a level 7 type 3, and this is someone who is starting to very, very seriously fear having an image as a failure. They are fearing that people will discover that they are not who they say they are. These are people who will they're a lot like a level 8-3 in that they're going to start taking advantage of at this opportunity of any opportunity. They're going to start taking advantage of any opportunity that they can at this point to maintain that ego image. And this is the part of the lack of development, I guess we could say, the disintegration of type 3, where the 3 is going to absolutely refuse to admit that they've done anything wrong. This is the 3 that can do a really good job of playing the victim. Although 3s, I've noticed, it's not like they play the victim. I don't know, maybe some of them do, but I've known some 3s that are at this level, like a level 7, and they never played the victim. They pretended like it didn't happen. They were confronted with something that they did that made them look bad. And it was like they were talking to you like you were stupid. Like, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? Even though there was a lot of damning evidence. I'm going to give you a real example. I used to know a guy when I was growing up. He was just a couple of years older than me. And he graduated high school, went into college. I was still in high school. And he was one of the most outstanding. We went to church together, and he was one of the most outstanding young men, if you will, that went to our church. Everybody knew him. He was really, really popular. He was trusted to, handle money for the church, and he was asked to, he had a beautiful voice. He could sing very, very well. He was asked to go and sing on the stage every Sunday morning with the band and all of that. And he eventually became the lead for that, and he started writing songs for them, and they started asking him to preach some of the sermons on Sunday. And he's a very young man, and so he's getting a lot of attention very, very quickly, gaining lots of momentum. He just seemed like such an outstanding person. He always had very witty and profound things to say. He was the kind of guy that you would talk to him, and it was almost unbelievable how mature he was for his age. He came from a really bad background. He had an absent father, and a lot of us, he came from poverty, and so he had a rough time growing up. Anyways, it came out later that all of this was a facade and that none of this was actually who he was, but he was such a professional liar that he would even make up bad things that he supposedly had done just so that he could confess them. And you would say, wow, you are so brave for confessing something like that, and you're so honest. You must be a really authentic person who's trying to be better. We love that. I mean, it's a Christian community, it's a church, so the whole idea is to be a better person. So, they eat that shit up, right? So, anyways, I remember there was one time where he decided that he stood before the church one morning and decided to make an announcement that he had a pornography addiction, and that he was working to overcome his pornography addiction, and that he felt like he should step down from doing any kind of work in the church until he got his pornography addiction under control, because he did not believe that it was appropriate to be in a leadership position in a church and have a pornography addiction at the same time. And again, all of that was a ploy. It was very, very clever, because on the one hand, you would think, well, why would a 3 want to admit that they have that problem? And my answer to you is this: if you have a 3 that's operating between level 7 and level 9, they're going to admit that they have problems like that, again, because we idealize the person that's trying to make their life better. Everybody loves the underdog. Everybody wants to root for the underdog. You can do the worst thing in the entire world, but if you come out and admit it without getting caught, and if you act like you're pursuing development, healing, to be a better person from whatever that thing is, people love that. They're like, oh, we feel so sorry for you. We understand. We don't judge you, that kind of a thing. So people were eating out of the palm of his hand. I remember the Sunday that he made that announcement. He was standing down at the front of the stage after the sermon was over, and, everything had been dismissed. And a line of people started forming just to go and console him, and tell him that, don't worry, you're not a failure. God still loves you. We don't think that you're disgusting or anything. We're so sorry that you're choosing this. We would still love to have you here. And so you see how he contrived that whole thing to get the feedback that he wanted, that ego stimulation that he wanted. So even though he was admitting to a bad thing, it worked out for him. And to the other point that I made about how 3s at this level, they don't even play, again, I don't think they play the martyr. You'll hear a lot in Enneagram circles where what I hear most Enneagram teachers say is that types 3, 7, and 8 like to play the victim. And I don't see that as much with type 3, at least not at this point. This is the place in type 3 where it's like they just pretend they haven't done anything wrong. And he did this too. This was like a year or so after the whole pornography thing. He was caught stealing tens of thousands of dollars from the church that we went to, and he was confronted about that, and they told him that, we're going to call the police and have you arrested, or you can stand up in front of the entire congregation and tell them what you've done and apologize for it, and then we will come up with a way for you to make it up to us. They caught him like in the act. Somebody walked in on him opening the safe, putting the money into a bag. Anyways, he refused to stand. He said he would rather go to jail than publicly apologize to anybody, because he didn't believe that he had done anything wrong. And for as much work as he had done for the church, they owed him that money anyway. And so it was just this, like, in his mind, it was like, no, I'm not going to apologize for that, because apologizing for that would mean that he would have to admit that he's done something wrong in front of all those people, and it would completely tarnish that reputation that he had. You know what I mean? And that for him was devastating. He would rather go to jail. That is less troublesome to him than losing that face that he had built in front of this community that he was involved in, if that makes sense. So that's level 7-3 right there, okay? So then we're going up to level 7-6. This is I'm sorry, level 6-3, excuse me. This is a pretty obnoxious 3. They're not, necessarily unethical people. They're just obnoxious people that can be annoying, and you wish that they would shut up. This is the person that is just so in love with who they are. They will talk about themselves and puff up their own ego, and it's like the way that they sell themselves. It's like they think that they're God's gift to you. You know who I'm talking about. I mean no disrespect when I say this, but like Kim Kardashian comes to mind when I think of this type of person. Just someone that just acts like they're God's gift to us, and it's kind of like, you're just a human like anybody else. I don't even understand why you're famous, because like, what did they do? Like, they didn't, she didn't invent anything. She doesn't sing. She models now, but that's not what she's known for. I mean, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you can tell that there's just this overinflated sense of value to her accomplishments or to what she's done. You know what I mean? And it's just ridiculous. They can be this type of three can be someone that is really very cruel. Again, they're very obnoxious. I have a cousin who has been, I don't know if she's still operating at a level 6, but especially when she was in high school, she was really insecure. And so she operated at a level 6 pretty consistently. And I remember in high school, I've always been like a short, curvier kind of girl. She's very tall, very slender. I mean, could be like a Victoria's Secret model, you know, very tall, very skinny. I mean, she maybe weighs 100 pounds soaking wet with a t-shirt on. And I remember when we were in high school, she would say things to me like, and she was very patronizing about it. She would say, Jen, you know what? You're just jealous because you're fat and I'm not, and you wish that you could look like me. And I think that's why you have a problem with me, because you just haven't learned how to accept the fact that you're just heavier. That's all. She would say stuff like that to me, and she would say it exactly like that. And it's the kind of stuff that you're like, I'm sorry, did that just come out of your mouth? You know what I mean? We a little bit later, I don't think either one of us were married yet. This was probably, I think, 6 years ago. She and I, another one of our cousins got married, and she and I were, you know, we were invited to the wedding. So we were seated at the same table at the reception. And just kind of out of the blue, she tosses this, it's like she's thinking, and she just tosses the idea out. And she says, you know, I'm sitting there eating my dinner, and she's right over here. And she says, you know, I feel so bad every time I come to these weddings. I always look better than the bride, and I get all the attention every time I come. And I know that when someone gets married, it's supposed to be all about them. And I really try to look ugly, like I really do. But it's like, no matter what I do, every wedding I go to, I show up and I just look better than the bride. I can't help it. It's like I wake up like this, you know? I mean, gosh, look at her over there. I mean, do you think that she notices that everyone's paying attention to me? Because I really don't want to ruin her day. I don't want, you know, to take the attention away from her, but I don't know what else to do. And I mean, she went on for like 10 minutes. And I mean, I had stopped eating. I remember having my fork in my hand and there was some salad on it and a little crouton. And I had my mouth open like I was going to take a bite. And I had just stopped because I could not believe that she just said that out loud. I mean, are you kidding me? So these are like just this, you know, grandiosity. You know what I'm talking about? These ideas that a level 6/3 has, that they're just God's gift. Obnoxious. Anyways, level 5. I think when we get to a level 5, this is where maybe level 5, level 4 is where we get most of our typical Enneagram type 3 profiles that you find online. We're talking about a 3 that is very image conscious, and so they take some extra steps to make sure that they're presenting themselves in a certain way. They can be conscious about their appearance, and they're very specific about that, you know, what their exact job title is. If they're, especially if they're very proud about their job, you know, they will be selective about who they go out in public with, and where, you know, who goes with them where. They like to keep their groups of friends separate so that they can have this identity with maybe their family of origin here, but then this identity at church there, and then this identity with their best friend here, and then this identity at work here, and then this identity at home with their husband, you know, here. And so 5 different identities, and they don't like any of those to mingle or get together, because then people talk and it's like, well, they may discover things about me that I didn't want each other to know. You know what I mean? So they start doing just manipulative tactics like that, where they're just, you know, they're not necessarily bragging about themselves, but they're trying to maintain a great degree of control over how their image is presented. You know what I mean? This is the type of 3 that is going to be very selective about their, you know, their Facebook profile page. They're going to want one that reflects a part of them that they're most proud of. So if you have like a female 3, for example, if she is very, very proud of her family, her children, her husband, she may choose a profile photo that's like the perfect family photo. It's the husband that she's proud of, and she's on his arm, and if they have any kids, the kids are in the picture, and everyone's smiling and they're happy, and the hair is perfect and the makeup is perfect, and they're on the beach in Hawaii on their family vacation, or they're at Disney World and they've all got the matching Mickey Mouse ears on, and that's the 3 picture. You know what I mean? That's just an example. This is an average level 3. At level 5, the difference is at level 5, the degree of inauthenticity starts to ramp itself up, because at level 5, this is where 3 really starts to detach from the emotional self. They cannot handle emotionally processing their inner anxieties, their inner shame. That search for who am I outside of these things becomes so overwhelming for them. So they just shut down emotionally. And it's weird because it's like the things that they experience in life that should be so moving for them, it's almost like they just underreact, and it can be kind of weird. I used to have a friend a while ago, and he and his wife got divorced. His wife was a 3 on the Enneagram, and I'll never forget when they were going through the divorce, he was so perplexed because he was more upset about it than she was. I mean, which is neither right or wrong. It is how it is, but it was weird because it was like she had no emotional reaction. She was like, okay, we can get a divorce. She went through the entire divorce process, signed the papers. They had kids. They had to go through a custody thing to see who was going to get the kids and do all of that. She packed her stuff. She moved out. She told, she called her side of the family. He called his side of the family. They did all. And he was telling me that through the entire process, she never cried. She never got angry. She never yelled. She never tried to save the marriage. She never wanted to go to counseling. It was just like, okay, we can get a divorce. And he couldn't understand how someone that had been so affectionate for him and so, amorous before just suddenly had nothing. And that's the sort of reaction that you're going to see in an Enneagram type 3 when they get to level 5. It's like they have to start shutting those emotions down, because to have emotional reaction, to show weakness, is to be a failure, if that makes sense. And so they have to be very protective of that. And so even though things affect them to a very great degree emotionally, they don't allow that to come through. So then we have a level 4. Level 4, again, we're kind of right here in that typical Enneagram type 3 profile, where we have someone that is just absolutely obsessed with being the best, with just outperforming other people. If, it's a guy at a gym, he may, just constantly be looking around to look and see, how much weight are the other guys here lifting. I wonder if I could lift that much weight. That guy's lifting more weight than me. I should try and see if I could lift that much weight. There's just kind of that sense of insecurity that they carry around with them everywhere. Just those thoughts as they go around. Again, if you're a woman and let's say you're out with, I don't know, your fiance takes you out to dinner somewhere, you may never say anything and you may never do anything that's noticeable on the outside, but a 3 that's at a level 4, she's looking around the room and she's looking at the other women that's her age, and she's thinking, she'll look and say, oh, she looks prettier than me. I don't look as nice as that. Her makeup's done better than me. You know what I mean? And there's just always this constant sense of comparison there, and that's kind of a level 4 thing. That's what we would associate with type 3 trying to be the best. They're needing to know that in their mind, they're the best out of all that there is to choose. Does that make sense? Those are just a couple examples. There are many other ways that could express itself. So then we're getting into the healthy levels of 3, and this is when we're going to go up to a level 3. This is someone that is a very ambitious individual. They genuinely want to be the best version of themselves that they can be. And it's not entirely for this need to satisfy their ego, to feel like they have value and external worth. It's not necessarily to show off for other people or to gain the attention and the affection of other people. But there is this inner drive to be the best that they can be. This is the sort of person that just spends a lot of time focusing on themselves. They're very successful. This is the kind of person that seems like they've got the Midas touch. Like anything that they put themselves to, they do. This is that person. This is the super mom who has 4 kids and she works part-time while her husband works full-time, and they own like a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, and they own 2 really nice cars, and and she takes the kids all over the place all the time, and she comes home and she makes all of their meals, she cleans the house, she manages the money, and every time she leaves the house, her hair and her makeup are done, she's got perfume on, her nails are always done, she's got the latest iPhone, she has the cutest little figure that she could possibly have, and you're looking at this woman and you're like, how are you doing all of this stuff? And you make it look like it's so effortless. You know what I mean? This is that type of a 3. They're not really necessarily trying to be better, at least not consciously, than anybody else. They just get so focused on the development of self that they just blossom, and people notice, and they're influential in that respect. It's the sort of person that you find yourself looking up to. It's the person that you want to say, how are you doing this? Please give me your secret. That's this person. Type 3 at level 2 is a very confident and energetic type 3. They know what they can do. They know what they can't do. This is a 3 that has become very gracious. There's a degree of humility to this type of 3. They are learning to be comfortable in their own skin. They're learning how to be who they are as God created them to be without feeling the need to compare themselves to other people. They can just be who they are. They're not necessarily worried about that. And then we have 3 at their very best, which is a level 1 3. And this 3, in my opinion, doesn't even look like a 3. This 3 is someone that has made peace with who they are. They have accepted their brokenness, their fears, their flaws, their failures. They have learned that they are not what they do. You know what I mean? And so this type of 3 is someone that can be very honest when they've made a mistake or if they don't know something, because they understand that their inherent value isn't about the external performance. This is also the 3, they're usually very humble. They're also, I've noticed, they're very generous. At this level, this is where we start to see 3s become really invested in helping other people. It's almost kind of a 2-ish thing, but this is what we talk about when we refer to type 3 integrating to 6. They take on this mentality, like the group mentality, which is more of a 6 thing versus, most 3s are just focused on the self. They take on the type 6 group mentality, and they start thinking about how they can help other people succeed. I'll give you a really great example. I have a very, very good friend. We used to work together, and then we became friends and have maintained the friendship since working together. She is a level 1 3, the only one that I have ever known. She is one of the most amazing people that I've ever met in my entire life, and she is a constant inspiration to me. She is a lot like the 3 that I was just talking about, that it's like she does everything, and I'm trying to figure out, how do you do this? She just bought a house. She has 2 kids. She has a full-time job. She does something like 20 hours of volunteer work every week. On top of that, she's constantly donating money to charities. And in the midst of all of this, she is actually the person that encouraged me to start Facets Relational Care and turn this into a sole proprietorship and file it as a business and start making money with it. She has given me coaching as I've gone through the process. She has her master's degree in marketing, and so she has taught me a lot about how to build a website, how to word things, how to arrange the stuff on your web pages so that it catches someone's attention and that sort of a thing. And anyway, she's encouraged me with everything, my YouTube videos, my Twitter, Instagram, all of that. She's constantly giving me ideas and encouraging me in that, because she believes in me and she saw the talent that I had and wanted to kind of feed into that. And so, but she's one of the most humble people that I know. If you turn around and give her the same kind of praise and attention that she's given me, to her, she's kind of like, okay, thanks. But she doesn't need the validation that comes from that. She's a very secure individual. So she's one of the best people in the entire world to be around. So she's a really good example of a level 1 3, because she has gotten to this place where she's so secure in herself that she can take the focus off of her and begin to take the natural talents and skills that she has as a 3, and that kind of intuition that they have about how to develop the self and make the self look good in order to sell. And she started teaching other people how to apply that to them, myself included. She's teaching me how to apply that to me and how to apply that to the services that I offer, and just, again, the practical things that come with owning your own business. How do I do my finances? How do I price? She's helped me with pricing. How do I price the services that I offer? How do I build a website? All of this sorts of stuff, business card design, and how do I get my foot in the door to, she's a great networker. She's introduced me to a lot of people. She tells people about me. She's gotten me, 2 public speaking gigs that I've gone and done, that sort of stuff, 2 classes that I've taught. So she's always doing stuff like this, to promote me because she believes in me and believes in what I'm doing. And that is something that you would see from a level 1, 3. So anyways, all of those different types of people are 3s, just at different degrees of health. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So you guys, know the routine, comments and questions and stuff, put them in the bottom, and I get to them when I can, but with the number of videos that I have and the threads that are on each one, I'm like 3 months behind in responding to those. So, just be patient with me. I do read them and I respond to as many as I possibly can. I'm way behind. So, but anyways, thanks.